Not as smart as I did. Gränsen där borta. Look out for PBD. It's time for love and order. Run, Benny, run to the next town.
Oh man, what a great show. What a great show. Mike Davis, Senator Kennedy, and PBD. This is awesome. It's great to have you.
Benny, I thought we were doing this on Manect. That was the one thing we talked. You said you're going to do this on Manect, and why are we doing this on this? But anyways, I'll forgive you. Go ahead. I'm all in.
We're doing it here because we want to be able to show you this live shot of someone who I know is near and dear to your heart, PBD, and that is the Attorney General of the state of New York, who is exiting the courthouse live right now. This perfect time. PBD, you always just kill it. The perfect timing. She's exiting the court, or hopefully soon to be exiting the court, after being charged with the same crimes that she accused Donald Trump of. She's facing 30 years in prison. You love the state of New York. What's going on in New York, PBD?
I mean, listen, one thing's first, the movie. I can't wait for an Oliver Stone type to produce Trump's movie. I'm being very serious here. I want somebody like a very big name director to make that movie. And even if it's a 3-hour movie or one of these 12-episode shows, we would be glued to it, because there's never been a bigger story in the history of America for redemption than what he's been able to do. And then now the entire world moves to what he says, whether it's China stopping not doing a deal with Russia, the 2 buyers that they had, whether it's, everybody else is paying attention to what he says. But New York is a mess. You saw the debate that took place on Wednesday night with Mamdani, Sliwa, and Cuomo. I think Sliwa crushed it on the debate. I thought Cuomo finally showed up. I thought it was Mamdani's worst showing of the debate, of the 2 debates that they had. He was actually nervous. He was being called out a little bit by the guys, and he was being challenged by it. And it was tough for him when we're actually talking about policies. However, the problem with New York City is 65% of their registered voters in New York City are Democrats. The state is 48%, which means Sliwa stands a bigger chance of becoming the governor of the state in a couple of years than being a mayor. And the only person that can actually do anything to beat Mamdani is Cuomo. If Sliwa steps out, but he's not going to be doing it. There's a lot of different speculation that's coming up because that's so. New York City, for me, the great city of New York City, the financial capital of the world. If this Mamdani guy gets elected, it's going to be a very interesting place, New York City.
What happens? What happens in the state of Florida? You've obviously built an empire here. I know that you have love of New York. You have ownership in the Yankees. So you are a house divided, perhaps. But will there be a major outflow from New York of capital and resources, innovation, entrepreneurship? Will that actually happen, or are those just idle threats if they elect a communist?
Andrew Schultz said when he had Mamdani on, he says he doesn't believe anybody is leaving New York City. That's what he's saying. And he said he's okay paying that additional 2% that Mamdani wants to raise for New Yorkers as long as the people get the help from New York. I was at Watermill this summer, and when I'm talking to realtors, everybody there was talking about Mamdani, and they said, I cannot tell you how many people are already planning on selling their homes in Manhattan and are already looking at investing outside in places of Hampton and outside of New York City. Realtors in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Boynton Beach, they're waiting for Mamdani to get elected. Realtors in Nashville, Tennessee, in great areas of Brentwood, Tennessee, nice areas, Franklin, they're waiting for this thing to be taking place because people will be leaving. However, as we say this and we look at New York City, for me, I don't want to see this happen. I have a challenge long term. There's a couple things when you think about, when you have kids, sometimes as a parent, you're like, yeah, go let your kids fail because that's how they learn. You're like, yeah, he needs to go through that. She needs to go through that. So as parents, we sometimes do that. Our parents did that to us as well. There are certain things we can't allow to happen. I think having people with different religious ideologies running for office, short-term won't be a problem. In 30 years, it's going to be a massive problem. Pew Research came out saying by 2070, Christians will no longer be the majority religion in America because of what's happening with them. And even though Muslims only have 4 million in America, I think that's the number that they're climbing much faster, and Christians are declining. And the average age of a Christian in America, the 200 million Christians that we have in America, is roughly 54, 55 years old. The average age of Muslim is 35 years old, which means they have fresh legs, they're young, they're energetic, they're not going away, they're making more babies, they're loud, they put the fear in other people. God forbid you say something about their Prophet Muhammad versus us. We're a little bit more chill, easygoing. You're seeing Christians rise up a little bit more and be tougher, especially after what Charlie Kirk, the great Charlie Kirk, did with Turning Point USA. You're seeing the younger ones coming up, this generation alpha that's 13 and under, that's kind of coming up, talking a little bit more confidently. But I think long term, if we kind of look aside and we don't see what's going on to Europe or what's going on to UK, and we're kind of like, yeah, it'll never happen to us. You may not be the beneficiaries of those negative policies and what happens to American politics, but your kids and grandkids will be. So as leaders, our job is to make sure we leave this country better for them than it was prior to us coming. That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do as leaders. I'm concerned New York City could be a case study for everything else. However, on the bright side of it, if Mamdani wins, if I was a betting man and I'm going to Poly Market or Kalshi and I'm betting on who becomes the governor, if Cuomo wins, I think the Democrats becomes governor of New York. But if Mamdani wins, I think Stefanik's percentage goes up 30% overnight.
Wow. This is that's very interesting. So you're going to be able to see a shift. You're going to be able to see an action-reaction in this. And it's amazing that you brought this up because it's something that I wanted to ask you, PBD. Mamdani is only polling because of the foreign-born population of New York. Poll after poll after poll shows that with just native New Yorkers, he wouldn't even be registering right now. Yet 25% of New Yorkers don't speak English. What is that exactly? Can you find other nations' capitals around the world where that's the case? What is wrong with America and assimilation? This I do not understand. And this seems to be something that is wholly and totally unique to the immigrant, to the mass migrant of today versus migrants of, let's say, the ancestors, back in the 1920s, 30s, famously Italian and Irish and so on, gangs in New York, Martin Scorsese, maybe Martin Scorsese for the Trump movie. I'm not sure. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say here is what's going on in New York? Like, here's the poll. We can just pop it up. Andrew Cuomo wins if it's just New Yorkers voting, but it's not New York anymore. New York is no longer New York.
Well, if you think about the idea of them allowing 15 million illegal immigrants to come here, then you got to sit there and say, look, that was a pretty good strategy on what you guys were trying to do because they can get their votes. And then if you can move them around to all over the country, maybe we can flip Texas. Maybe we can flip some of these places. Maybe we can do that. Having said that, there's two parts that I have. My one side that I'm overly paranoid with us being a little bit too tolerant with what's going on. We're being a little bit too tolerant with, if they want to pray 5 times, a day, and you hear the Islamic prayer in cities like Dearborn, and the citizens are like, listen, we don't want to hear these prayers. It's too loud. It's disrupting my entire life. Hey, listen, you guys do your thing. Mehdi Hassan comes out and says, if you guys want to do it, we should be able to do it too. And some Americans are like, I don't know what to say. Maybe they're right. They're going to play that game. So wait till you see how offensively Muslims, many of them, are going to play in America. Wait till you see the more and more and more influence they get in politics. They're going to press and go like this. And then all of a sudden, everybody that's campaigning is going to try to make them happy because they'll be walking on eggshells. The challenge with New York City is a perfect case study of tolerance. It's a perfect case study. Let's see what happens. But the arrogance of thinking people won't leave, they have a short memory. They don't remember what happened in 2020, 2021, 2022 during COVID, which 2 states lost $1 trillion of money under management. 2 states. One of them was California. $1 trillion of wealth left California, and the other one is New York. New York lost $1 trillion of wealth in California. When Cuomo was the governor, if you remember, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, wanted to bring 25,000 jobs at an average salary of $150,000.
Yeah.
De Blasio and AOC said, hell no, don't bring it here. Cuomo's like, what are you talking about? These are good jobs. No, if they bring it here, rent's going to go up, and we don't want those jobs here. Bezos like, you don't want me? No problem. I'll take these jobs elsewhere. You're going to get that and then some with Mamdani if he becomes mayor.
Should we have a sharper acuity for assimilation when it comes to immigration in this country. It seems to be something that has been utterly and completely lost. And you talk about a Muslim majority community. I mean, you can see what's happened in Minneapolis. You know, I'm from the Midwest, man, and Minneapolis just ain't Minneapolis anymore. And there have been it's now one of the most crime-ridden hellscapes. This used to be one of the cleanest, most pristine cities, and nobody would ever dream of Minneapolis being someplace that's dangerous or scary. But now it's just become something that is unrecognizable from when I was growing up.
But the good news is, if there is a president brave enough to touch this subject, it's the one we currently have right now. I don't think we have anybody else that would be willing to touch that subject except for him, if there is one. And if there's ever been a time to do it, it's him right now, because it's a second term. You can be a lot more aggressive on your second term than your first term. You see, the challenge here, Benny, is when we allow people who come here who hate America, who hate this country, who hate what we stand for, who hate the values that we have, who hate and bitch and whine about everything that we got going on. But when you have that level of hate, what the hell are you doing here? Why don't you go back to Pakistan? Why don't you go back to the country that you so love so much more than you do America? Go back to Afghanistan. Go back to the countries that you're at. But if you come to America, you best love this place. The day we landed in America, November 28, 1990, I was the happiest young boy alive. I was 12 years old. I was looking for Rocky in the airport. I was looking for Gremlins. I was looking for, Drago, to see maybe they're still shooting another movie here. I was looking for all these guys when I came down here to the States. We were so grateful to be here. I served the U.S. Army. I went to the 101st Airborne Division. I got out. I felt like I owed America. It's my responsibility to give to this great country that allowed me to become who I am. I may be born in Iran, but I'm made in America. And I think we need more of that expectation of people that are coming here. Back in the days, if you wanted to come to America, it's like, what are you going to do for America? What are you going to bring here? What skill sets are you going to bring? What are you going to create? What are you going to develop? How are you going to make this place a better place? Now it's like, nah, just leave it open. Come on in. And I think Bernie Sanders yesterday or 2 days ago, and Tim Dillon talked about, well, yeah, we have to have a strong border, and Trump did a better job on the border. We messed up on the border side. Biden should have done a better job. Now you say that? Now you say that with 15 million people here? So I think the assimilation that's taken place, you have to hold them accountable to proving that you love America, or else go back home. If you want to enunciate your citizenship, it's a few $1,000s. You don't want to be here? One-way ticket. Sign off. You will never be a citizen here ever again. You're giving up your right to ever be a citizen in America if you hate it here. I would love to see that offer being made from the top. I literally would love to see, for not illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants, deport them, do what you're doing according to the way that they're doing it. But think about some legal Americans that we have. What would happen tomorrow if the president came out and said, we are willing to pay $5,000 to anybody that wants to enunciate their citizenship in America if you hate it, and we'll pay you a one-way ticket to leave this country. We'll give you another $10,000. I would love to get rid of people that live here who are legals who hate America. Let's legally enunciate your citizenship and leave this place. If this place is so bad, go to a different place.
Completely based. By the way, just a word of advice, PBD, if you are looking for gremlins, then you should go to a No Kings rally and look at the women. I can show you where actual literal gremlins live and exist.
Beautiful.
Okay, so what happens next? What happens next in our economy? I go to these young kids, man, and we go to these schools, and we're trying to carry the energy, carry some of the energy, right? That was dispersed, that Charlie carried, right, for all of us. And we're giving these talks on these campuses, and these kids are saying, I want a house, and that's just not even in the cards. I can't even think about owning a home. And I'm going to take that as like a major issue for me. I'm going to carry that forward, PBD. That's going to be like my life's work, is to try and make homes more affordable. I'm not exactly sure what kind of policies we're going to craft or what we're going to suggest. We're in the early stages of this. But since you are such a sharp business mind, and since you care so very much about young people and the American dream, you can't start a family in a one-room apartment. When you rent your entire life, you become kind of a nihilist, and you don't actually have ownership of the land and the property. And our forefathers understood this. Buying a home, picket fence, having a yard, like having a place for your dog to run around, your kids to have a swing set, that's so out of reach for young people right now. And that seems like such a such a curse that has been leveled by both parties on the young. How do we fix that, PBD?
It's a great question, and I'm glad you're on that mission. It's a very important mission. For the last 25, 26 years, I've been in the financial space. I started off with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, day before 9/11. I got my Series 7, 66, 31, 26 life and health. I've sold stocks, bonds, mutual funds, options, insurance, variable annuities, you name it. And I've been doing needs analysis on clients for many, many years. And when you look at today's times and you hear the younger generation talking about, hey, when you try to buy a house, baby boomers, it was 2.5 times your salary to buy a house. Today, if you want to buy a house, it's 8.5 times your salary. How do you want me to buy a house? On top of that, you guys were developing 2-bedroom places and 3-bedroom places. Nowadays, developers have no incentive to build a 2 or 3 bedrooms. All they're building is 4 bedrooms. 3 bedrooms have gone like this. 4 bedrooms have gone like this. Well, a new starter home, I don't need 4 bedrooms. I don't need to spend that much money. But developers are also in a pinch because to them, they're sitting there saying price of everything has gone up since 2010 till today. I believe the price of concrete has gone up 150%. So that's going up. They're trying to build. There is not an incentive. Companies like BlackRock are buying all these buildings, and we're shifting towards more a renting space where some people are just maybe even giving up. Why would I even want to buy a house right now? I can't even afford to buy a house. How do I do it? And they're right. The younger generation is in the right of what they're going through. And on top of this, you have to also consider what is happening right now with AI and the speed of things disrupting is going to be very quickly. Overnight, Google stock drops 2.9%. Why? Because ChatGPT launches something called Atlas. If you put ChatGPT's Google called Atlas next to Google's search engine, just search something together. Why would you ever go to Google? If you look at the two together, why would you ever go to Google? Google's sitting there. You had a couple years to get your part right with Gemini and combine it together. You didn't. And by the way, 60% nearly of Google's revenue comes from just ads from their search engines. They're about to lose that market share to ChatGPT, to Atlas. So speed of disruption is super fast. Back in the days, newspapers will be disrupted. You had about a 10-year to prepare for it, 15 years. Radio, you had preparation. Social media, preparation. Today, it's just going quickly. So some of it's going to be very nasty. To the young kids that were watching, the reality of it is the following. You know, when I was younger and I'm coming up and my parents got a divorce and had nothing going on, I don't have a 4-year degree. I don't have a 2-year degree. I'm in the Army. I'm getting out of the Army thinking what I'm going to be doing. We have to redefine what the American dream is. What is the American dream? The American dream to me is the word equity. And I don't mean equity like, ESG equity. I mean equity as in equity could be in a home. Equity could be in cryptocurrency. Equity could be in stocks. Equity could be for a company you work for that's shared some equity with you that's building valuation for you. Don't think one-dimensional that equity only equals me having a home. I sit down and I talk to guys, and when I worked at a previous insurance company, I told them I had a meeting with them. I wrote a long 16-page email, and I said, look, I want to know what I need to do one day to be the CEO of the company, and I want to own equity in this company. And they're like, that's not going to happen. I'm like, okay, cool. 6 months later, I left and started my own insurance company, and we grew it, and eventually we sold it for $250 million. And when we sold it, 450 of my employees and insurance agents had equity in the company. 450 got stock options that they could activate if they wanted to. And a lot of people's lives changed. Pursue equity. These marketers many years ago convinced us that the American dream was home ownership. It's not. It's equity. Don't just think you're living the dream, because there's a lot of people that are living a dream that are not owning a house. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I own a home today? I do. Do I prefer owning a home? Of course. I don't need to call someone's permission to change a wall or do this or do that. But I think if you're younger, buckle down, increase your valuation, increase your market valuation. People will be paying for you if you're willing to do that. And then if you work at a company that's giving you some opportunities on equity long-term, solve for equity, not just home ownership.
Yes. I mean, I think that they're inexorably linked, right, to the human desire to say I own something, right?
Yes.
I have something in my name. It's it's mine, and I'm earning it, and I'm paying for it, and it's something that no one can take from me, actually, if I do the hard work. And so, that's always been such a great motivator. I hope that people understand that. I don't know. I don't know what'll happen, man, in New York. I just want to toss up the poll here from Polymarket. You mentioned Polymarket. Bro, this is dismal. Look at that, 94% to 6%. You're not going to sell your share in the Yankees, though.
No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, the Yankees nowadays, that's a non-duplicatable asset. It's the greatest sports team recognizable franchise in the world. The Yankees logo, people wear in countries, and they don't even know it's the Yankees. They just love the logo. It's so recognizable. No, I don't think they're going to be affected by it. That's a very, very tough asset to get a hold of. However, the only thing we got left here last minute is if this 94-6, if you remember what Pierre Poilievre did from Canada, the worst campaign in the history of campaigning, maybe even worse than Kamala Harris. He was afraid to go to talk to podcasters. He had a massive lead on Carney. Within 2-3 weeks, all of a sudden Carney came and took his lunch and won, and everybody was so furious. Oh my God, what happened with Pierre? He should have won. He was eating apples so professionally. He's such a good-looking guy. Carney came and said, get out the way. So if Sliwa drops out, if a couple things happen the last few days, there is maybe a small chance that it could happen. But at this point, Mamdani is probably going to be the mayor of New York City.
Man, Poilievre, like, I would have loved to have had him on our podcast. Nelk Boys said that we invited him. You invited him. Why the hell didn't he do your podcast?
Because you're a scary guy to him. You scare him because these types of politicians, you know, Benny, their expert campaign managers say, don't go to pro-Trump people because Canadians won't vote for you. Well, good for you. You just lost your campaign, and you didn't know how to be a diplomat dealing with President Trump, and you didn't want to get on a flight and come and build a relationship with them. And Carney did. Carney won. You lost in one of the worst embarrassing losses in the history of politics in our generation.
It's too bad, but it's a good lesson to learn. And it's a good lesson for every politician to learn that authenticity is the currency of the internet. It is the currency. It always has been. And you should be very comfortable with yourself and your ideas. And they'll be challenged. And the people the people that can actually live by their values, they're the ones that are going to win. That's why I'm bullish on JD in 2028. I just think Democrats can't live by their values today. That's proven, like proven in this conversation, actually, and proven with Letitia James getting out of the court and walking out of the courthouse in Virginia. Thank you, PBD. Obviously, you're a legend. You got millions of followers here on X, 1.4 million followers, millions and millions more on YouTube. And he's just one of these guys, like PBD is just one of these guys that just like shoots so clear and so straight. And that's such a beautiful story. I actually did not know your full American heritage story. We'd have a very different country, PBD, if more people approached our nation like that.
Appreciate you, Benny. Thanks for having me on.
Godspeed.
Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.